Hello, Patriots, family, and friends. My name is Murray Clementson, and we're here with Freedom for You Fellowship today at the Patriot Church Conference 2023. So we have a lot of really great speakers today and some all kinds of things happening spiritually and learning about all sorts of things that are going on with the Patriot networks across the country. And we have today here Jeff Dornett, which is also a podcaster. He's also a journalist. And he's doing all kinds of great work out there. He hit us with about 10-15 minutes of just packed action this morning and telling us about what's going on. And I just want him to share some of those things with us so that we could let people know what he's up to, what's coming, things that people can be getting involved in, and just some other cool things like that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So you shared a lot of great things this morning, and one of the interesting things that you shared was about that you're a 5-point Calvinist, but when you come to a church like this, you have Pentecostal preachers, and you find that you just see the fruit of the Spirit. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I grew up in a very strict, I would say maybe even like legalistic household. You know, it's very like by the book, theology super important. 5-point Calvinism, cessationism, and all that kind of stuff. And it got to the point to where there was at times where some of the different churches and even family members would be like, well, if you don't believe in these 5 doctrines, then you're probably not a Christian, and we don't associate with those wacko charismatics and all that. and the thing that I've realized especially since getting into like podcasting and the people that I've interviewed and met, and people like Pastor Kim Peters and Shram Hadian and people like the thing that I've come to realize is that people in my theological camp very rarely have the fruit of the Spirit. Like, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, self-control, all of those things oftentimes are sorely lacking in my theological camp. And then I start looking at people like, Pastor Peters and Pastor Locke and Todd Coconato and all these guys, and I start realizing, well, they've got the fruit of the Spirit. So then it makes me think, okay, is it a coincidence? Do I need to rethink my theology? Like, what's actually going on here? So it's been an interesting ride for me.
Yes.
And it's still kind of working through the logistics of it all. But it is interesting to note that I feel like I've been rejected by my theological camp, and then arms wide open with like this crowd, like Patriot Church, and some of these different pastors like this, and I find myself more in tune and more aligned with these guys than even people that I agree with more theologically.
Okay, but how does that maybe compare to, like, say, what a lot of people call the woke church, where love is all there is and that sort of thing? Is this a similar church to that, or?
No, not at all. Well, so I think so kind of like what I talked about during my talk inside is that there's 2 different ways that Jesus responded to people, and it depended on who they were, right? So the everyday common person that came up to Jesus, he was kind, gentle. He exuded just like, caring and compassion and all of that. But then when it came to the elite that were corrupt and really messing with people and taking advantage of people, and it was just all about power and control and all of that, he literally destroyed them. He did exactly what Donald Trump did during the 2015-2016 election. Was he bypassed the current system, went straight to the people, pointed back at the corrupt leaders, and said, "Look at these liars and hypocrites. Don't behave as they do." Yeah. And it's interesting looking at those parallels. And the thing about people like Pastor Hadian and Pastor Peters is that's their exact same mentality. When you look at how they are, they're some of the nicest people. I mean, Ken Peters is probably the happiest person I've ever met in my entire life, and I've known him now for probably like 5-6 years now. Right. One of the always the biggest smile, the most genuinely caring person you will ever meet in your entire life. But when it comes time to take on Planned Parenthood, or it comes time to take on the transgender movement, or Democrats, or establishment Republicans, like, there's this righteous fury that comes out of these guys that is biblical, that is a reflection of Jesus' earthly ministry as well. And so when you start looking at that, that's a part of all of that. That's also a part of self-control, is knowing when to apply your anger in the right scenarios.
Right, maybe have courage.
Exactly. And so that's one of the things I appreciate about Patriot Church and about Ken Peters and Shram Hadian and this whole crowd, for sure.
Yeah, that's well said. So. There's some things to work through there. You have people that feel like all that there should be is just this love and inclusiveness, And then there's also knowing the Bible, understanding what's really in there, and understanding that Jesus wasn't always just about just loving and going around and patting everybody on the head. Jesus actually went in, and like Donald Trump did, and exposed these hypocrites, exposed these Pharisees, and let them know that they were doing wrong, and that, you know, they needed to be put in check. They needed to be exposed. They needed to, you know, stop doing what they were doing. And of course, you know, the evil side doesn't like that. Those Pharisees didn't like that at all. So yeah. And so another thing you had said that seemed to be really, it really hit me, was that, like what Elon Musk says about, you know, that freedom of speech, freedom of speech it can be free, but not necessarily the freedom of reach. So we're entitled to having this, or it's written into our rights, it's written into our Constitution to have this freedom of speech. But the big problem out there is the freedom of reach, and that is, it was so great to hear that, because I think everybody knows about that. They know about it on Facebook, they know about it on Twitter. It's just like if some just person you just can't stand out there from the left side, you know, wants to tweet something, it just goes viral. It goes all over the internet. But if you get some guys that are actually speaking truth, having some integrity, have some good morals, they seem to be in this tiny little algorithmic loop, and it's just so frustrating. So can you speak a little bit about that? It sounds like you're doing some really cool things, and I just, you know, I love to see it, and just tell us about that. So,
of course. So, you know, I always give the example as well. It's like, let's say that you're having like an event in a public town square, and you got a stage, you got a microphone, you got speakers, and you're like, look, this is free speech. You can come up here, take the microphone, you can say whatever you want. Right? Except if they don't like what you say, they'll turn off your microphone. And you're like, well, what about free speech? What are you talking about? It's like, no, you can say whatever you want, but I don't have to air it. I don't have to allow people to hear it through the system, right? So you can say whatever you want. A handful of people may be able to hear you if they can hear your voice just naturally, but they're not going to allow you to be speaking into the microphone, right? And so it's the same kind of thing with Twitter. It's like Elon believes, look, you can say whatever you want, but I don't necessarily have to allow people to see what you're posting. And that's a dangerous thing, to where you're not actually having an honest and open discussion. I believe that what our country really needs is to be able to have intellectual honesty and have true and honest discussion and debates over our disagreements. And that's something that it seems like we're not allowed to have. They use the algorithms in order to put us into these little algorithmic bubbles where we're only talking with people that we like, or with people that we don't like, but they're going to inflame the situation, right? And that's where we need alternatives. And luckily, there's been a lot of alternative social media platforms that have like popped up. But the problem is that they're not even free speech. I had Jason Miller on my show one time, former CEO of Getter. And I got him to admit on the show, they're not actually a free speech platform, they're a free political speech. And I'm like, so that's kind of a problem. So what are you going to censor? Truth Social, which is President Trump's social media platform, they hired a Silicon Valley AI company to do all of their censorship directly on Truth Social, so that way they can play by the rules that's put forth by Google and Apple. Like, for me, I want no part of that, because I believe that people should have the freedom of speech. And I think that we learned during COVID that whatever the mainstream narrative was completely wrong. And all the doctors that were being kicked off, and myself, I was kicked off as well for talking about COVID one too many times, that we've been proven true every step of the way. So I'm in the process right now of actually building my own social media platform that's completely free speech, as long as it's constitutionally protected. So obviously you can't incite violence, you can't dox people. There's certain limitations to that, but as long as it's protected by the United States Constitution, you're allowed to give whatever opinion you want. And I think that's the kind of mentality that we need, that I haven't really seen from any other social media platforms. And that's really why I'm launching Pickaxe.
Yeah, so Pickaxe. And so where can they find Pickaxe?
Yeah, so if you guys go to pickaxe.com, you guys can actually pre-sign up right now. We're going to launch Q1 of 2024. We're going to enter into beta. But anybody who signs up right now, they'll be in phase 1 of our beta rollout of the platform. And I'm starting off with basically 4 main premises when it comes to the platform. It's going to be completely constitutionally free speech. We're not beholden to big tech in any way. So we're not using their servers, not going to be in the App Store. I'm not going to be beholden to their ridiculous rules and misinformation and hate speech and all that kind of stuff. All the garbage we're so sick of. Exactly. I'm creating algorithms that are going to work on your behalf instead of working against you. And then we're going to have monetization opportunities for content creators, because that's another way that they censor people, is they take away their opportunity to make money. Like, for example, on Twitter, myself, they deem me too political, so they won't allow me to have that subscription button on the platform, even though I've got almost 20,000 followers on Twitter.
Wow.
And so what ends up happening is they don't let me monetize on the platform, but then they demote, and Elon's explained this, they demote outbound links to other platforms or just other websites or anything along those lines. So you don't allow me to monetize on the platform, but you also won't allow me to send people to other places where I can make money and monetize.
Right.
So it's kind of a lose-lose situation. So we're going to find different ways of helping people to be able to monetize. We're not going to downplay outbound links, and we're going to try to build this in a way that's conducive to especially new up-and-coming content creators as well,
right,
to really start building an audience and figuring out how to monetize and support yourself, so that way you can spend more time investigating and exposing and
right,
confronting the corruption that we're facing. That's what we need. And then also having open and honest discussions and debates over these controversial issues, because these are super important for what we're facing right now.
Absolutely. Well, I love it. That all sounds so great, and
Yeah.
I really appreciate that you're able to see through. So many of us, we hear about the algorithms, we hear about what's going on, the manipulation, all the boundaries that the left or the big tech has put out there, and we just get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So praise God that there's guys like you that can go and see through the muck and mire and then lead the way in a new direction that's going to be beneficial to our country, a way that Christians can be able to have a conversation,
Yep.
be able to engage these people, where we keep getting shut down every time we try to have a reasonable debate about all the different plethora of topics out there that are abomination to the Lord.
Yep.
So thank you for doing that. We look forward to seeing what's going to happen, and man, may God bless your ministry. So,
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
thanks, Jeff.
Yep.